Hello, old friends and new friends. So today we're having a special guest. It is Amanda Perino. She is the CEO of the Rails Foundation, and we're going to be talking to her about RailsVeld and what the Rails Foundation is and what its plans are for this year and maybe for next year. And actually, a funny thing before we start. So around a year ago, me and Adrian started having our first talks about maybe making a podcast. But really, a strong catalyst to doing it was when you and me, Amanda, had this chat that we uploaded to the Super Rails YouTube, and after doing the chat with you, it felt so great, and I really called Adrian right away and let's do the podcast.
Oh, cool. I'm glad I was a part of the catalyst for that idea that was already taking shape. That's cool. That was a good chat.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I mean, I spoke with Yaro before and I told him like, hey, let's do a podcast together. And he was like, I don't know, maybe it's not for me. But afterwards, after you going on the show with him, he really wanted to do it. So yeah, thank you for that. I think I'd like to start today about to talk a little bit about the most famous dog in the Rails community. How's Milo? How is he doing? I know he has like a respectable age. How is he doing?
Yeah, he's 17 now. He's doing really good. He's literally at my ankles curled up. It's getting harder and harder to leave him because he's getting so old. So actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to FOSDEM in Brussels at the end of this week, and I don't have anybody to watch him, so I have to take him with me in a backpack. So some people can meet him in person if they're at FOSDEM.
Nice, beautiful. So yeah, get in touch with Milo at FOSDEM. Okay, let's talk about I think what everybody's curious about these days. Tell us about RailsWorld 2024. Maybe you can start from like when and where, talk about the venues, the stays, activities, and then touch upon the CFP and other things that you have prepared for us.
Yeah, so RailsWorld 2024 is going to take place in Toronto September 26th and 27th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. So we're asking people to come in on the Wednesday for pre-registration. And really, it's going to follow a similar setup to RailsWorld in Amsterdam, which means it's going to be 2 tracks over 2 days and focusing in a cool venue. I have to say that it is a really, really cool venue this time. It does have challenges, but it's nice. It's a nice place to hang out. And we're really going to focus on kind of talks that push the boundaries of Rails. So it's really technical talks that we're going to be looking for.
Okay, that's cool. That's very good that you said that, because now I feel that it's kind of like CFP season. Everybody's putting out their CFPs, and we had a conversation with Andy as well, and like this was my question. Like, what are you looking for CFPs? What should people focus on, and because the CFP is like, okay, you get some questions like, what would you like to talk about, but we need a little bit more guidance, so it's more technical talks, right?
Yeah, it is more technical talks, and it's funny because I was looking at the document. I'm pulling it up for myself here. I don't know how other events do it, but I can tell you a little bit about how we do it.
Yep. Perfect.
Before we kick off, we kind of sit down and decide on what we want the overall messaging to be. And then from there, a couple of topics, like how can we align Rails with hot topics in tech right now? And then that's what we put into the CFP, and that's what we ask for, and that's what we look for. So for instance, last year, I think we hit on something quite good, and we're going to stick with that. That's why it's like very future focused. And oh, look, I also have striped nails as well. Just noticed that.
This episode is not sponsored by Stripe, but if you do want to sponsor, it's all good, because we're all wearing Stripe shirts. We are all prepared.
So I think the last time it was any talk from the one-person framework up to Rails at scale and like the journey within, and also how is Rails competitive? What's coming to Rails, and who's going to deep dive into that? So that's kind of what we're looking for this time as well. But also the core team has been very public about Rails 8 milestones this time. Okay. So you can see exactly where Rails is going. And I would say that people wanting to talk if you can look into those milestones and see if you have any experience and talks on things that align with that, you'd be in a really good position for the CFP this year.
Okay. Sounds like another very strong Rails, and how does it fit in this new environment, and how it helps to deliver, to ship apps faster and to ship value as fast as possible type of conference. That's great.
Actually, on
Exactly.
the previous RailsVeld, I really liked that there was some not so technical talks like shape up or making money on open source. It really helps you wind down, like relax a bit from like hard technical topics to more like soft skills.
Yeah, and that's an actually good thing to talk about, because we had, I think, 26 talks last year, and this year, because the number one request from people was more time between talks to chat.
Okay.
The thing that suffers there is we need to take 1 or 2 talks out of the agenda. So there's less talks this time. We're going to keep those, I don't know what to call them, like kind of more soft talks, like the shape up talk, and we're going to keep those to a minimum. Let's call them like business management talks. Those will always be a tiny, tiny bit, if we keep them at all, in lieu of technical talks. I know everybody kind of likes those to decompress a little bit, and it's less technical and less heavy on your mind. But we're putting 30-minute breaks in between most of the talks, and that's kind of where you could decompress. Wow. That's kind of how we're looking at it.
Wow, I think that's major. 30-minute break. That's amazing. I definitely know a few people that last year they didn't go they didn't go to any talks. Like Greg was out there on the hallway track talking to people. He didn't see any talk. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to see them at home. It's all good. It's going to be okay."
Yeah. And the way I see it, some conferences have a lot of community-oriented talks on the track, like how to mentor, how to I don't know, it went off the top of my head, how to hire juniors. And really, the way I look at it is that can happen on the hallway track, like face-to-face with people one-on-one, rather than on the stage. So it's a little bit different than other events look at this, but that's how we're approaching it.
A little bit about the CFP process.
Yeah, that's a good question. We do have a space. Right now, there's a couple of things up in the air. We do have a space that could be workshop oriented, but I had a lot of challenges last time in that a lot of people wanted them and the space was limited. And then there was this really manual process that people signed up for all the talks so that they can get into one of the talk. And I really had to go through one by one and say, not you there. You can maybe go over there. In the end, I think everybody got what they were looking for, but then people didn't show up, and really just the messiness of the registration process, which fell on me, didn't do it justice for the workshop presenters. So this time, I think we're not going to do workshops. And that space, we're hoping that space, which is a smaller track, so a third track, could be like a lightning talks track for the community. So people who are attending and they have a 5 or 10 minute talk, you can give it at RailsWorld.
Nice.
I guess that's one of the surprises that I wasn't necessarily supposed to say yet, but.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the CFP process, because I know you wanted to do this last year and it didn't really happen. You wanted to do the CFP to publish it, to pick the speakers, and then release the ticket sales. Are you going to be able to do that this year?
I think so, yeah. So we're going to open on February 5th, the CFP, and then we're going to keep it open until March 21st. And immediately, I think that's a Thursday or Friday, and then the Monday after we'll release ticket sales. And we want to let all speakers know by then if they're in or not, so that at least there's 24 people who don't have to rush for tickets. I'm hoping it'll work out like that. So far, it depends on how many people apply to the CFP. You know yourself that it takes time to really go through each one and then kind of evaluate them next to each other and make sure you can fit it into the agenda to make sure it makes sense, and then the agenda flows well. So that's going to be the big focus for the next couple of weeks.
Gotcha, makes sense. I think that's a great process to let everybody know about the speakers, and that they'll speak and they don't have to think about, should I get a ticket or not, or what should I do with the ticket afterwards. Tell us a little bit about the sponsors, because I know you opened up the sponsorship prospectus. What are you looking for there? What was missing maybe last year, or whatever you would like to share about that?
Last year, I think it went really, really well. As far as what was missing, not much. All the sponsors were fantastic. I think they had a lot of engagement on site. We got good feedback back. Maybe some tips here and there, but in general, it's the same that the attendees said. More time between talks.
Okay.
What we're looking for this time, and I think AppSignal was our platinum sponsor last year, and they did this really well. One of many that did this well, but they brought the fun aspect to it, the engagement aspect to it. So they had lots going on around their booth, and they brought the games, and then they brought, what was it? I'm walking around their booth in my head. Like they brought the Schule game, they brought the
T-shirts,
stand, yeah. So
the baby clothes,
yeah, the ducks, yeah. So I think sponsors who want to do these fun interactive things are always going to end up adding a lot of value to an event. So if companies have ideas on what they can do and what they can bring to the event, not just, a booth setup, but what are you going to do at the booth? Those are conversations I'd love to have soon.
And when I heard that RailsVeld is going to take place in Toronto, my first thought was, it might be in the Shopify headquarters location. So can you tell us a bit more about their actual location?
Yeah, so it's at a really cool location. Actually, one of the things that made me feel really comfortable with this location is called Evergreen Brickworks, and it's an old brick factory set in the middle of a park. So it's surrounded by greenery. It's got the cool vibe of like an old brick building that we can transform ourselves. There's graffiti on the walls. The old brick kilns are still there, and you can walk through them. And what kind of made it really comfortable to choose this venue specifically is that we found out when we were researching, Shopify had Shopify Unite there in 2022, I think. So they've been on the location, they've done events there, they've worked with the same vendors. Those vendors will understand what we're going for because it's the same sort of vibe, the raw industrial vibe, like the cool aspect. So they've been there before. And so I reached out to somebody at Shopify on the events team to say, like, did you like this venue? Were there problems working with this venue? And everything was rave reviews. And that's how we knew it would be a safe space to go.
Okay,
Beautiful.
so we know what to expect. Yeah, in 2024. And are you already thinking about the next year, about where RailsVeld will take place in 2025?
I'm already thinking of 2026. So yeah, 2025 is definitely on my mind. Every once in a while I set up a suggestion form on the foundation page of rubyonrails.org. And every once in a while I get a suggestion. All it is like a country. We've got Colombia, Slovakia. So they're slowly trickling in. And I also asked that in the RailsWorld post-event survey. So I'm going to go through these places and see like which city has a good vibe for this. Possibly it's going to be back in Europe in 2025. I mean, that could change if we think North America is really fantastic and we want to stay there. But the idea is to kind of remain flexible between the two continents and eventually possibly reach out further to other continents, let's say.
I mean, if we do live voting, so like anybody can vote, I'm sure that Tuzla is going to win.
I don't know if you asked Mohammed, Tuzla's a sore subject since he moved it to Sarajevo.
Yeah, I think it was a good decision.
Yeah,
definitely looking forward. Yeah, definitely looking forward for Uruka as well. One other crazy idea was like allow only the Rails contributors to vote. Then it's a win-win. You'll get people contributing so they can vote for RailsWorld.
But like we already have a lot of good ideas. I mean, off the top of my head, and there's I'm not saying this with any sort of commitment or conviction because I haven't started the search, but I think Berlin would be awesome for an event like this. I think Barcelona or Madrid would have the right kind of venue that we're looking for. And then at the same time, I'm looking at any sort of metrics that I have like where like we have really light tracking via Plausible, and it kind of tells you where people are looking at rubyonrails.org from countries around the world. So also looking to see where the activity is, where the most amount of people are. That's also why we chose Amsterdam. We know that the community is really big there. But now that I think of it, like this community will go anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter.
You're right. You're
North
right.
Korea.
I suggested Barcelona.
Except there.
I suggested for Barcelona on the Twitter thread, so that would be amazing. I would love to come there.
That would be
as well.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a big community there as well.
Well,
and
if
sun.
I was choosing a
Sun.
country, I would maybe choose Morocco. So it is on the very west of the like Eurasia. No, well, it's not Eurasia; it's Africa. So it's not like America, it's not Europe, it's Africa, so another continent. Then it's close to the US and close to Europe. Then it is warm, it is cheap, and it has low visa requirements.
Is there already a community there, or is it just the community would show up?
I think it will just show up.
And then I could go surfing. That would be great. Morocco's got great surfing.
And great food, of course.
Also.
Well, until then, tell us what other cool initiatives does the foundation have prepared for us for 2024?
Right now, we're like full steam ahead. As far as the 4 pillars, I always call them, of why the foundation was set up: documentation, education, marketing, and events. We have balls in the air for all 4 of those pillars. So that feels really, really good. We're in talks with somebody to create a tutorial for the Ruby on Rails website, like a brand new one. We have put a team together for updating the documentation, the writing, but also the UX. So they're going to start working on that. They've already started. Marketing is ongoing since we started, and we have 2025 events work happening. So it feels really good. We're in a really good position to push the needle forward for all 4 of those pillars. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen the news that Emmanuel Hayford has joined the Rails Foundation to do some publishing. Can you tell more about it?
Yeah, so we put out a vacancy for technical writers, plural, before, and that's where we found the technical writers who are going to work on the documentation. And Emmanuel also applied. And as I was going through his application, to me, it made sense because he's so active. He helps write This Week in Rails. He shares tips already. So I commissioned him to do a series of Rails tips. So far, we have 12 going. I think we've shared 3 or 4. And that's just to kind of that's the marketing side of it, right? Like the marketing pillar, just to put the news out of what's new in Rails. And this is how you can use Rails. And these are tips and tricks. And that was always the intention. I'm a little late to it. He only started just before the end of the year. I think the last week of December, we posted the first tip, but this has been something we wanted to do from day one.
Yeah, it really fits his profile. He's got this podcast like the Rails changelog, and I remember he was also given a talk, I think, at in Athens, Rails SaaS, about what's new in Rails 7.1. So it kind of perfectly fits him to be writing about what's new in Rails.
Exactly. And he's really on top of it because, every couple of weeks, he's the one who writes the tips, or the This Week in Rails newsletter. So we needed somebody like that who's really constantly looking at the changes in the framework and can share that with everybody.
Beautiful. Cool. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up for today. Amanda, thank you so much. Take care of Milo, and hopefully we'll see each other in more Rails events throughout the year. Looking forward for all the initiatives that you have prepared for us.
Yeah, cool. On that subject, thank you for having me. But which events are you going to? Because I'll be at Tropical Ruby in April.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there as well.
See you there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm doing Sin City Ruby, Sin City Ruby, and then Tropical RB, and then probably Uruko, Friendly, and RailsWorld. This is my short list for this year.
List.
Oh, yes, Adrian, you're also doing Friendly.
Yes, also doing friendly. Yes, I have to. I have to.
Amanda, are you coming to
Yeah.
any other conferences?
You know, I wish I was just looking at rubyconferences.org, and we're at 21 events this year.
Yep.
I think it's exciting that you could travel the world and like really just Ruby all over. But I have the old dog, and already I have to go to Toronto for 2 or 3 site visits, going to FOSDEM, and then going to Tropical RB. It's just too much time away from my dog in his old age. If something happens, like God willing, I don't want anything to happen to him, but if something happens, I'd be a lot more available to go and attend some other conferences. But that just means there's one more spot for everyone, for a developer, because I'm not a developer, right? Thank you so much for having me, and I will see you all around the world, I'm sure. Let's see where we end up in the same place at the same time next time.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming here and sharing the news. Have a good one.
Matchy matchy.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.